If you follow any of the chatter online, all of the talk so far in AI world in 2026 has centered around Claude Code. Not really sure what it is. I think maybe it was the late 2025 release of Opus 4.5 combined with Claude Code, which had previously been available, that kind of created this explosion of interest and hype around Claude Code. And for maybe some of our listeners that resonated with you, and Claude Code is maybe a AI product that you use all the time from Anthropic. But I think for many of us non-technical people who maybe aren't coding all the time, maybe it didn't hit. But out of nowhere, Anthropic did release a complement to Claude Code that I think is for the rest of us, and that is called Claude Cowork. And this is essentially the non-technical version of Claude Code for everyone else. And if you're wondering, well, what the heck would I use it for? I think this is actually a preview on the future of AI interfaces, because what Claude Cowork allows you to do is really everything that a human can do right now. Interfacing between your local computer and terminal, as well as being able to upload, download files, and use a browser. Kind of the things that humans do. So on today's show, we're going to be going hands-on with Claude Cowork, showing you what it is, what's the difference between that and Claude Code, and also hopefully giving you some practical use cases of how you could use it today. All right, I hope you're excited for today's show. I am too. Welcome and what's going on, y'all? My name's Jordan Wilson. Welcome to Everyday AI. If you're new here, this is a daily live stream podcast and free daily newsletter helping everyday business leaders like you and me keep up with the nonstop AI developments. Just kind of cut the noise and take what's important to grow our companies and our careers. It starts here with the unedited, unscripted live stream podcast. But if you want the cheat code, that's our website, youreverydayai.com. Go sign up for our free daily newsletter because we're going to be recapping the highlights of today's show. So if you missed something or you're like, I want to watch the video version of this, yeah, we're going to be linking to that in our newsletter. So make sure you go check that out for that and all of the other AI news. So let's get a little hands-on here in a minute. But I think first we have to do a little bit of explaining. And this is our AI at Work on Wednesday series. All right. So most Wednesdays we go hands-on with a certain AI tool or update from usually one of the big four, from either Microsoft Copilot, OpenAI's ChatGPT, Google's Gemini, or Anthropic's Claude. So like I said, so far, in late 2025 and early 2026, Claude Code has dominated the conversation. And now with this very new product, very similar, Claude Cowork, I think it's worth diving into. So on today's show, we're going to explore how Claude Cowork simplifies working with files and tasks on your computer. We're going to demonstrate how to set up Cowork and give Claude controlled access to folders, and show some real examples of Claude automating everyday tasks for non-developers. I mean, we'll see how that goes, because let me just get this one out of the way right now. It's a very Claude Cowork is an impressive piece of software when it works. It's brand new, right? It's been out for not even a week yet. And it's a little buggy, if I'm being honest. But when it does work, it's been very impressive. And something else that's very impressive, which I think is maybe why we even have to pay more attention to what's coming out of Anthropic. According to the Claude team, Claude Cowork was built in a week and a half, and they used Claude. Yeah, 100% of Claude Cowork was built with Claude Code. So essentially, the engineers were, I won't call this a vibe coding project, but they did say on Twitter that, yeah, they were just orchestrating, Claude Code agents as it built Claude Cowork. All right, so it is a little buggy for now. I'm sure it's going to get a little bit better. The Anthropic team I've been following, they were rolling out updates over the weekend. So I do assume it is going to get a little bit better. So FYI, if you jump in there and you're like, this thing stinks, all right, it's hit or miss. It's been hit or miss for me. We're going to do a live demo. Hopefully it works, because just 10 minutes before this, I was trying it and it wasn't all working. So just keep that in mind. All right, but let's talk about Cowork. And, this is what Anthropic says is Claude Code for the rest of your work. So this is essentially a tool that allows Claude to access and work with your local folders. And that's pretty big. And there's a difference between Claude Cowork, working with your local files, and how you would normally work with your local files. Because for the most part, there's one or two ways. So even if you're working with a desktop version like of ChatGPT as an example, it can connect to some of your files. So you might be saying, what's the big difference, right? It's limited, right? So the desktop version of ChatGPT, as an example, as maybe one of the closer competitors, number one, it can't access or control the browser. Number two, it can't access everything on your computer. It can access certain files that are open from certain programs, and you can upload files individually. So what Claude Cowork does is you essentially set a folder to work with when you start a new task, and you can essentially make it your home folder so it can access literally everything on your computer. That is the big difference, right? Whereas, if you're using Google Gemini on the web, ChatGPT on the web, even Claude on the web, yes, it has these connectors, but these are just your cloud services that are already synced. So this is more of, you have to be thinking about personal productivity, all the things that live both on your local machine, right? But also in those other places that Claude can access as well. One other thing, I did find this out like halfway through investigating. So Claude also has connectors, and it says that Claude Cowork can access them, but for whatever reason, if you are on a Gmail account, you're good. But if you're on a Google Workspace account, Claude Cowork cannot connect to your connectors. A little confusing, because online, if you go to claude.ai, you can use their connectors to connect to your, Google Drive, Gmail, Google Calendar, etc., but not on Claude Cowork, the desktop program. And I literally was reading through a lot of people's early reviews, and everyone was confused on why it didn't work. Everyone's like, wait, it doesn't work. So when you connect your connectors in Claude Cowork, it's not going to say, oh, this doesn't work. It's just going to not work. So hopefully the Anthropic team can fix that. I did kind of send a DM to a person or two to let them know that they should maybe clean that up, because it does cause a lot of confusion. So keep that in mind, right? There's some some fine print here, but so it also, Claude Cowork enables Claude to read, edit, and create files on your computer, and it's built for non-developers to easily collaborate with Claude on tasks. So yeah, this is essentially, you get all the good stuff of Claude Code, but with the ease of just using a more beginner-friendly interface. So this is how Anthropic kind of describes it. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. Live stream audience, let me know if you can see. But they said when they released Claude Code, they expected developers to use it for coding. And they did, but it quickly began to be using for almost everything else. And that kind of led them to build Claude Cowork, which they say is a simpler way for anyone, especially non-developers, to work with Claude in the same way. So essentially, this is a response from Anthropic. A lot of the early stories that kind of went viral online of how people were using Claude Code was not just for coding applications. Yeah, so there's great things if you are on the software development side, engineering side. You can push things directly to GitHub, right? You can do all those cool developer things from Claude Code. It can spin up sub agents to break these complex tasks into more manageable chunks. But the big thing here is it's bringing a graphical interface to essentially harness or better harness the power of Claude Code. Because when you're using Claude Code, you're essentially using a terminal, a command line interface, right? Which for non-technical people, you're just staring at code jumping across the screen and you can't really do anything else. It's not super user-friendly, we'll say, if you're not used to working in a command line terminal, right? So this Claude Code is essentially, it can accomplish a lot of the same, Claude Cowork can accomplish a lot of the same things Claude Code can, but the big thing is it has a more, friendly interface. So that's what Claude Cowork is. And well, what's the big deal? But like I said, I think this is a preview of what's to come for future AI interfaces. And this is, according to my knowledge, which I cover it every single day, right? But this is the first mainstream AI native interface that allows you to easily control what humans do right now, right? That's your local computer and everything that it entails. Your terminal, which, there's reasons why using a terminal is advantageous for an AI tool, right? So even if you're a non-developer, you don't have to worry about that too much. But the ability to access anything on your local computer and use your local computer's terminal is huge. But not just that, well, you're actually, using the Claude platform. So bringing in all of your Claude memory, your Claude skills, that's huge as well. But then also the ability to control a browser. You can control the Chrome browser via the Claude for Code extension. So I'll kind of show you how that's set up here in a minute. So that's, like I said, this, even though it's a little buggy, I do expect it to get a lot better. But this is essentially Claude Cowork is just that. It is a true coworker. When it works, it is filling the role of what a human would normally be doing to get the most out of these AI tools. Because usually, right, and this sounds bad, right now, aside from orchestrating agents, humans are kind of like the duct tape, right? I feel like duct tape all the time, especially if you really know what you're doing using these different AI tools, right? Aside from orchestrating and, you're the one commanding, but from there, it's like, okay, well, I have to copy and paste this, right? I have to save this to my computer. Then I have to download it. Then I have to upload it, right? And then I have to go, use a couple things in the browser because, chatgpt.com or gemini.com can't use the browser, right? So all of these small little intermediate tasks, right? The duct tape, the connectors that us humans are playing right now. That's what Claude Cowork could do. And I do think that the other big companies are going to follow suit, but that's why this is such a big deal. So who has access to Claude Cowork? Sorry, not everyone. So right now, unfortunately, you have to be a Claude Max subscriber, which is $100 a month. So yeah, I kind of begrudgingly bit the bullet, I don't know, about a month ago and upgraded my Claude subscription just because on the $20 a month limit plan, sorry, I know I say about this a lot and I bellyache about it, but Claude has the absolute worst limits. For $20, it is the absolute worst value. However, I will say this, at the $100, yeah, it's a little more expensive, but the limits on that are absolutely bonkers, right? Especially if you're normally paying for Anthropic's models on the API side, which are historically way more expensive. Claude Max, whether you're on the $100 a month plan or the $200 a month plan, the limits are actually very generous if you were comparatively just using it on the API side. So it's kind of a polarizing point of view when it comes to what value Anthropic provides. But especially if you've been using Claude on the API side, the Claude Max subscription is worth it, especially now since you get access to Claude Cowork. So right now, that's the only way that you can get it. And it is only for now available on the Mac OS app. So you have to download it. So they said in the future, this will be rolling out to other paid plans for so you have to sign up on a wait list. And they said that Windows maybe eventually. So right now, unfortunately, to get access, you do have to be on that $100 or $200 a month Claude Max plan and on a Mac. So I've already talked about this, but let me just quickly break this down. The difference between Claude Cowork and Claude Code. So Cowork is just designed for broader, simpler, non-coding tasks. Both right now, though, share the same foundation, but Cowork just has a more approachable use, right? It just has a pretty, Claude graphical user interface, right? The GUI, it's very easy to work with. And I've actually seen a lot of the people that, I've been paying attention to over the last few months that are really kind of been leaders in educating others on the Claude Code space. They've even said for themselves, even though they don't necessarily need the advantages of Claude Cowork, some of these graphical interfaces, people said that they're just using it just because it's a little easier and a little, easier on the eyes, so to speak, right? So Cowork also adds skills for documents, presentations, and browser tasks. So here's how it works. So when you set it up, like I said, this part for me has been extremely buggy. And when I do a demo here in a minute, maybe you'll see it. Maybe we won't. We'll see. You know what? I was thinking about maybe I'll restart it. I have it open on my computer. I don't want to because I want to show you guys this live. And if it doesn't work, that's okay. I have versions of these prompts that I just did that I can show you and walk you through it. But essentially, you grant Claude access to a specific folder on your device. There's a lot of security and privacy concerns that come along with this, especially if you are on a work computer, right? It's a little different for me. I am the business owner. This is my computer. I've understood and have signed off on the data security and privacy risks. And hats off to Anthropic. They always warn you about that. So keep that in mind. There's obviously, especially when you're connecting your local computer, the terminal and its ability to control the web. If you don't know what you're doing, and if you are a little loosey-goosey with your data, especially if it's a company computer, company account, I would probably advise against this unless you really go through the proper steps of getting your team on board. All right, so essentially you grant access to a specific folder on your device. You log in with your normal Claude account. So a lot of your skills and other chats, they carry over in a different section. And then Claude makes a plan. And then sometimes it will ask you questions, kind of like on a deep research, how it would. But the cool thing is you can just click through it with the keyboard. Very nice, where normally, if you're on Claude Code, it's all in the terminal and it's a little hard to navigate. So it's a nice little interface. So it makes a plan. You can look at the progress, the artifacts, and the context that it's using. And then you can queue tasks and give feedback without waiting for completion, right? So if you are giving it kind of a multi-step task, right? Something that involves accessing documents on your computer, something that involves obviously, writing code or using something online that you would normally, do on GitHub or something like that, navigating multiple websites, you can send Claude Cowork messages in between. You don't have to click stop, right? And it's not going to, pump the brakes on the current task. So that's nice. It can see messages and you can give it feedback as it's going on, as you observe what it's doing right or maybe not right. All right, so here's what it unlocks, and then we're going to get into a live demo. Well, it just simplifies things, right? I hate that this is the example that kind of went viral with Claude Cowork, organizing things on your desktop. I don't think that's very helpful, but I'll show you what that looks like. But also creating reports and managing data easily. Then it allows you multitasking with parallel task processing like a human coworker, right? You can, collaborate on a project with Claude Cowork as a coworker, dump a bunch of context, give it a bunch of tasks, whether they're non-technical, document creation, research, using your skills that you have saved in Claude, or just, going and doing more technical work. And this also does empower non-technical users to automate complex workflows safely and flexibly. All right, let's look live. To tell you the truth, I'm like 5% nervous about this one because I feel it's going to break. So we'll see how it goes. Live stream audience, do me a favor here. All right. I'm going to share my screen, and podcast audience, as always, you can go to youreverydayai.com and watch the video version. So what I have now, hopefully it's coming up here. Oh, I just got rid of it, but I am sharing my entire computer screen. All right. And the reason is because I'm sharing and showing a desktop application, but if this works, it's going to take over the browser as well. So hopefully that won't screw anything up because I'm also using the browser to run this little live stream here. So let's see how it goes. What could go wrong? So we're going to try some very simple things first, but I'm actually going to show you around the interface. All right. So what you'll see and this is the normal Claude desktop program. So I've always used Claude desktop. I actually really like it. But now you'll see in the upper left-hand corner, there's now 3 different options. It's a very clean interface. So your default is chat, and that's just going to be like you're using Claude online. Then you have the new Cowork section, which is in the middle, and then you have your Claude Code. All right, so I'm just going into the Cowork section. So one thing that you'll see as I click around, it's important to know, your Claude Cowork chats are going to stay in Cowork. So you can't access those in the normal kind of chat view of Claude. So keep that in mind. That's important. All right, so let me kind of show you around. So Claude Cowork gives you these kind of starter prompts that you can click, create a file, crunch data, make a prototype. All these are starter prompts, and they give you little placeholders to fill them in. Not super useful if I'm being honest. So then over here on the right-hand side of the panel, you have something called progress. So if you give Claude Cowork something that's a little complicated or multiple steps, you'll see it kind of make a plan, and you can see it go through the progress. You can watch it, leave, come back, check in, leave feedback, etc. Then you have your artifacts. So anything that is created, right? So let's say you have it go do a bunch of research. Maybe you're going to have it scrape a bunch of websites, put together an Excel sheet, put together a PowerPoint, anything that it creates, any files that it creates along the way, you can always go and download them there. That's going to be in the artifacts. And then context. So if I upload anything to share with Claude Cowork, so a bunch of files, or if it accesses certain files in the folder that I give it access to, that shows up in the context. So that's on the right-hand side. So essentially, left-hand side, that's where you navigate between your chat, your Cowork, your Claude Code, and your different Claude Cowork chats. So you can go back and reference them in Claude Cowork, but not on the web. In the middle is where you talk with Claude Cowork. And on the right-hand side, you have your progress, your artifacts, and your content. All right, let's try something simple. Let's see if this works. And this maybe might be an example. So I'm saying something simple. I'm using Opus 4.5. I'm saying, can you code me a simple yet sleek Kanban style CRM that I can run locally, right? So this is just an example, right, of what you could do. One thing I talked about last year is that I think that everyday people were going to vibe code certain software just to get things done. All right, so now it's asking me some questions. So the cool thing is I can just hit on my keyboard. I don't have to type anything. It's asking me, what contact deal information do you want to track for each card? So basic is number 1, sales focus, number 2, full CRM, number 3. All right, so for speed, I'm just going to click 2 on my keyboard and then click next or enter on my keyboard. All right, then it says, what stages column do you want in your pipeline? I'm just going to go with the basic one, which is lead, contact, proposal, one lost. All right, so I'm going to click 1 on my keyboard, click enter. And then it said, how should data be stored? For now, when Claude Cowork recommend something, it says recommended, but it still, takes you through all these different options. So I love this interface. I've said for a long time, I love how OpenAI's deep research kind of asks you a couple questions. So similarly, Claude Cowork goes through a series of questions, and obviously the answer to maybe your first question might impact the other questions that it asks you along the way. So I'm just going to go for browser storage. So now it's going to create this for me. And you might be wondering, like, okay, Jordan, what are you doing here, right? How many times as a non-technical person have you been stuck on something, or maybe you have to use a certain piece of software and you have to, hit 20 different, mouse clicks. You got to go into 10 different interfaces, all for something simple, right? So this is something that I'm going to probably start doing more and more, is creating a simple, distraction-free kind of Kanban style CRM or Kanban style, project management tool that's disposable. That's just for my tasks to get done for the day. Because right now, sometimes I'll just write down, hey, here's my 5 important tasks that I need to get done on a little, text edit notepad, and then they just kind of sit there and die. So, why not spend literally probably a minute or 2? This is actually taking longer than the first one, to just use Claude Code to build myself something, because I can personalize it and customize it to my needs. And then you saw when it did ask me the different questions, right? I could have made an actual app with authentication, right? A login. And you can do this for the most part for free, because there's free tools out there that do this. So you could even create a very simple version of a CRM that you log into, and it saves all that information, right? As long as you're using the same computer, or if you want to get a little technical, you can do it as well. So in the upper right-hand corner, there's a progress bar, right? So essentially there's 2 different tasks. So it's already completed the first task, which was create the Kanban CRM React application. And then number 2, it's testing and verifying the application. And then under artifacts, this is what it's created. So right now it's just an HTML file. And then under context, even though it didn't need anything, I did give it access to my downloads folder. All right, so let's scroll down. All right, and it's done. Let's see how it works. So I'm going to click open in Google Chrome. All right, and then let me go ahead and drag this onto the screen here. And live stream audience, what do you think? So I'll try to describe what this is, but it gave me a nice looking, and this works just locally here. So give me a nice looking Kanban style CRM, right? With leads, contact, proposal. So I can click new deal. So I'm just going to put test here, right? Test, test at test.com, phone number. There we go. Deal value, $1,000. There's an expected close date, right? So this is very much like something that you would see out of a, simple CRM, right? I can't get the date right here, but that's okay. Let me try this again. So 2027. All right. And I'm going to click create deal. And there you go. It just created a card. It put it in the lead stage. I can drag things around. It puts some placeholder things that placeholder cards that are already there that I can go in and edit. Right. So very simple. Right. So if you're someone that is constantly, creating your own little systems to do work better. So not only could I make this, obviously customizable, but I just did this in 1 minute, right? If you need to connect your real data, you can, right? If you need to save this to a database, you can without knowing anything. You can just work with Claude Cowork and it'll do it. However, I will say this is more of an example of what you would do if you were using Claude Code. I just wanted to show you, hey, how you can, go vibe code something fairly easily. All right, let's do another quick task. Let's try. All right, so I'm going to say, even though I don't like this example, we'll see how it works. So I said, can you tell me the best way to organize my download folders? Then create those additional folders inside downloads, but don't move anything yet. All right, so it is running the command. All right, so it ran some commands there. It saw all of the folders. It's already done. So it said, I have a clear picture of your downloads folder. You have a lot of content here, around 180 items. I actually have a new computer, so there's not a lot in there. So it has some installers. So this is actually, I might actually do this, right? Even though I knocked on it for like, why would you, use it to reorganize things on your desktop? I should probably be doing this. I'm very unorganized sometimes when it comes to my local files, and I should do better because I sync all of those for use on AI anyways. So it went through and it said, hey, according to these 180 folders that you have, you should create an installers folder, a videos folder, images, documents, all these things. Oh, and it looks like it already created them, even though I did tell it not to, right? So there you go. Maybe going a little off the rails here. All right, so let me see. I want to make sure I'm not showing anything too private here on my computer. I'm not. So look, I mean, it did it just right there. It just created all of these new folders, right? Everything it said. Captions, audio, data, presentation, documents, etc. Now, if I wanted to, I could tell it, go move all those folders in the corresponding, or all those files in the corresponding folders, and it would do it, right? So this is a task that, especially on my old computer, it probably would have taken me, honestly, 10 hours because I had more than 10,000 files on there, right? So right now, like I actually sync my downloads folder straight to my Google Drive. So I don't know if I want to do this yet. I might want to spend a little bit more time, but there you go. A simple example of using the power of a large language model that has access to your local folder. So pretty cool. I could have also, if I wanted to, I could have said, go look at all those files, right? And maybe give me ideas or tell me which projects aren't done yet, right? That's a huge unlock right there. Because if I went through and opened all these files, there's probably some missing, some opportunities, some things that are undone that I should get done, etc. All right, last but not least, let's see if we can do one more. So surprisingly, all right, Claude Cowork, even though it was a little finicky right before I got started, it's actually doing okay right now. All right, so next thing I'm going to do is I'm saying go through my last 20 tweets and replies. All right. Let's see what it's going to do here. And I'm telling it to essentially go through my Twitter account, see how I tweet. All right. Let me bring up the folder here. So it's already launched a browser. I might have to give it access to do it. Nope, it's already in there. All right. So, I mean, this is pretty cool, right? So here's what happened. I essentially sent a tweet, or sorry, not a tweet, a message to Claude Cowork. I had previously already given it access to, number one, access my Chrome browser, and you do have to have the Claude Code extension in Chrome, and then Claude Cowork can then control your browser, right? But you can go tell it to do things, and it can use its big, smart, large language model brain. So what I said is go look at everything that I tweeted, both my tweets and replies to tweets, and kind of tell me your style, right? Or if I wanted to, and I did test this, by the way, right? I said, go find my tweet style and just go reply to someone. But what I did first is I uploaded a bunch of documents. I said, hey, here's how I feel about AI. Here's kind of my truths. Here's some of my hot takes. go analyze my style and go, go reply to some tweets, right? And, I said in there, go quote tweet some of my own tweets in reply to other people. And yeah, I can't say X. How would I say re-X my X's? Sounds weird. Yeah. So I said, go quote tweet some of my tweets in reply to other people's tweets. Is that confusing? It was confusing as I said it, but in my mind, it made sense. So let's see. All right. It's already going through. And again, I can see exactly both in the Claude Cowork interface, I can see what it's looking at, right? So it's using my computer. First, it's navigating around, and then I can also watch live. So you will know what it's doing because you can watch. So right now I have this instance of Chrome up. It has a nice little orange kind of glowing box around it. So at that point, I know that Claude is using my browser. And there's also a notice at the top that says Claude started debugging this browser. So I know that it's working. One thing I will say though, and I did reach out to the Anthropic team, but I haven't heard anything back. I'm actually like, this is so annoying, but it's not technically an Anthropic problem. It's just, this is how browsers work because I've run into the same thing, with Manus as an example, right? One of those, super agents can control your browser. When it goes in and out, so it might go look at the browser for a minute and then it goes back into Claude Cowork and it thinks about something. So then that little bar goes away, right? So the whole display kind of keeps jumping up and down. So that's not a Claude Cowork thing or an Anthropic thing. It's actually just how it works when something takes over the browser in Chrome. So it is a little annoying if you're trying to do work while Claude Cowork does it. So I guess maybe it is human. It's just kind of like a little annoyance that one of your coworker has. So it's hard to keep doing work in Chrome. So if you do this, you might have to launch, Atlas or Comet or, Edge or a different browser to do your normal day-to-day work, especially if Claude Cowork is going to be doing something that takes a lot of time. All right. So I'm not going to wait to, have you go through this because it might take a couple of minutes. I just wanted to do some very quick demos, get hands-on on this AI at Work Wednesday. So here's the recap, y'all. You just saw what Claude Cowork is now is not the same as what it represents. Let me tell you what I mean by that. This is the worst it's ever going to be. And actually, I was expecting a lot worse for the live demo, but you saw it. It actually did fairly well, right? It created me a little piece of software that I can use. It took about 3 minutes, right? It helped me with maybe an organizational task that I needed to do with my old computer, right? If I would have done that with my old computer, maybe I would have just shut it down and retired it, right? Maybe it would have been a little bit easier for me to use it, but it was just chaos, right? So, and then I just had it go through and probably do a task that I will end up doing, or I might have it go through and, pull out some insights in my podcast, right? Because there's certain things in the podcast, when I export all my data, it doesn't give me all the data that I need. I have to go in and, click honestly to get all the data I need for a single episode. It takes like 15 minutes because you have to go into multiple interfaces and it takes a long time. So, right, I could just give that to Claude Cowork, check in every once in a while, make sure it's still doing a good job. So that is our quick AI at Work on Wednesday, hands-on with Claude Cowork. And like I said, what it is now is not what it represents. This is, I think, the next interface for AI native work, right? It is having a large language model connect the dots with what us humans are currently doing. Because unfortunately, aside from orchestrating on the front end and checking on the back end, what us humans do, duct tape. Right. So I love this move from Anthropic, bringing the immense power of Claude Code in an easy to use interface in Claude Cowork. And it's worth checking out. Right. So if you're not on the Claude Max plan or if you're on Windows, maybe if you want to go sign up for the wait list, because it is something I think as business leaders, we always have to think about what's next. We always have to explore what's next. We can't wait until it's commonplace, because at that point, if you're in a competitive landscape, it's too late. So yeah, even when things are a little buggy, you have to be scoping things out, because if you don't, you're going to be left behind. And if you're a listener of this show, I want you ahead of the pack, not looking at everyone else passing you. I want you to be in the lead. All right. So To be in the lead, what you got to do is make sure to go to youreverydayai.com. We're going to be recapping the highlights from today's show in the free daily newsletter. So thank you for tuning in. Hope to see you back tomorrow in Every Day for more Everyday AI. Thanks, y'all.